All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mondays with Mike. It is just the most wonderful time of the year. It was like Christmas morning out there, kind of. Got down to 67 degrees in Houston, which was the coolest in more than 3 months. That was the last time that we were below 70 degrees, at least in Houston at Busch Intercontinental was back the first week of June. And so, depending on where you were across the area, most locations had the coolest morning since early June. So, that must have been pretty awesome. Also, it's getting us kind of in the spirit for football season, right? The Texans started yesterday. We struggled, as you would expect. We have a very young team, rookie quarterback, first NFL start. We kind of struggled against the Ravens. Of course, the Ravens are a very, very good team with a well-established quarterback and all of that. So they were going to be tough to keep up with, but there were some glimmers. Not many of them, but there were some glimmers of hope. Especially I think on defense made a couple of big plays. Will Anderson. Also the Saints. My favorite player is Jameis Winston, and he didn't have a chance to play. So, but Derek Carr had a shaky start and then did pretty well against the Titans. Ryan Tannehill. A lot of people don't like the Titans, of course, because they used to be the Oilers, and Tannehill had a terrible game, so they blew that one. My Florida State Seminoles, they destroyed Southern Miss. So the first two games, we beat LSU, we beat Southern Miss, and now we are ranked third in the country, which is pretty awesome. It's a great thing, behind only Georgia and Michigan. And then also the other big story, at least sports-wise, football-wise over the weekend, was the continuing success of former Florida State standout, primetime Deion Sanders. Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes won again against Nebraska, which was pretty awesome to see. So anyway, that's my football roundup. We'll see. I guess the other big story was for Cowboys fans out there, like Melissa Wilson, big Cowboys fan, grew up in North Texas. They beat the Giants 40-0, humiliated the Giants. It was like a pro team playing a college team or something like that. It was really crazy. So that's what's happening in the world of football. What about the world of weather? Well, we talked about how cool it got this morning, which was terrific. Will it stay cool? No. At the time that you're watching this, temperatures are already climbing into the upper 80s and some low 90s. And we're probably actually going to end up close to record highs today, believe it or not. Today's record is 99. We're looking to get into at least the mid 90s, probably some upper 90s. And so, sort of in contrast with the fact that we had a nice cool morning, we're going to be actually pretty hot for this afternoon. All right, the other things I want to talk about. So we have a couple things happening here. We have a pattern change that's going to affect Texas and Houston for this week, giving us better chances for rain. Not today, but especially heading into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're going to take a look at some computer models there to talk about this little bit of a change in our pattern. And we're also going to take a close look at the tropics and a bit at our extended forecast and some drought relief as well. So I want to start off with the tropics because we do have a hurricane named Hurricane Lee that is out in the Atlantic Ocean. And so we'll take a look at Lee and where it is and where it's going to be headed. So I'm going to share my screen. So here we go. So we are on our Fox 26 page right now and checking out a satellite view. And of course, this is Lee right here. Lee reached Category 5 hurricane status at the end of last week. It went from, let's see, a Category 1 on Thursday morning to a Category 5 on Friday morning. The winds got up to 165 miles per hour. Kind of went through what we call an eye wall replacement cycle, where the first eye wall kind of collapses and then another one forms, and it temporarily weakened to a Category 2. Now it's back up to Category 3 status, and the forecast is for it to be a bit of an East Coast threat. So first thing, we'll take a look at Lee here from the National Hurricane Center, and basically this is the forecast track, and I don't expect it to change very much. Sorry, I'm clicking on the wrong thing here. I don't expect this to change very much. The tricky part is it's a very slow mover. So when you take a look at this forecast, look, this is Monday, early afternoon, right? So even into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it doesn't move that much. And then finally gets caught up in stronger upper level steering currents and gets pushed off toward the north coming up this weekend. And depending on, if it leans to the west side of this cone, it could be more of a concern for places like Long Island and Cape Cod and all those like kind of coastal areas of New England that can sometimes get glancing blows from pretty strong hurricanes. And so that is the main concern with this one. It is not a concern for us, however. So let's take a look. So this is the way Lee is represented on the GFS computer model. So it's located right there. And this is the latest run of the GFS. Remember, GFS stands for Global Forecast System. It's our primary American computer model. Very advanced. And in fact, they've made some significant improvements to this model. NOAA has over the last couple of years, increased the computing power, increased the amount of data that goes into it. And I know for a while, people used to kind of trash the GFS and say that the European model is better. And it may still have a little bit of a better reputation, but I think the GFS has been doing a great job. So here's a look ahead at the next few days. And it just shows, the system, like I said, moving slowly. This is Thursday night, and now this is heading into Friday morning. And I'm going to switch views here. This is a website that's run by a Florida State meteorology graduate, PhD, named Levi Cowan. He's great. And this website is great, Tropical Tidbits. If you're really geeky, if you really want to look at geeky stuff. So this is the forecast from the GFS, the latest GFS run, which coming up on Saturday morning, and even Saturday afternoon is showing a pretty close approach here to New England. So with a very strong low, some of these parts of the coastline of Maine and Massachusetts and all that, they could see hurricane force wind gusts and maybe some flooding and things like that. Now, if it does take a little bit more of a jog to the west, it would be a bigger impact. It is not going to affect us, however. All right, so that's what's going on with Lee. Now, going back to the National Hurricane Center page here, I want to show you that we also have another system out there named Margot, and I like it's Margot kind of spelled like Margot Robbie from Barbie, and other movies. So this is where Margot is going to go. So Margot's in the middle of your screen right here. Here's the GFS, and it just moves to the north and kind of meanders across the North Atlantic for a while. And sometimes these things will end up bringing some rain to like Ireland and the United Kingdom and things like that in a weakened form. So that's where Margot may be headed. But I do want you to sort of just turn your attention to the lower left-hand side of the map. And there's a tropical wave there that's not very well defined right now. But as we fast forward in time here, you're going to see this low developing right there. So at this point, this is Friday. So it's a ways off still, but coming up on Friday, the GFS model is showing the system starting to gain strength and actually getting pretty strong in a hurry, moving over a lot of the same water that Lee just moved over. In fact, almost the exact same location. And this red number that we have here is the pressure level in millibars. To put it in some perspective, like an average regular day, average millibar pressure is 1,013. If you were to take the whole world average, it's 1,013 millibars. And so 971 is a pretty strong storm, and that would be a hurricane. From there, it keeps moving generally off toward the east. And let me switch this to an East Coast view here, because it's not coming our way. So there it is, again, coming up next week. This is now Thursday, the 21st. And the latest run of the GFS shows it staying off the coastline. So that would be good, but it's still, this is pretty far away. And so this is something that we'll have to watch, closely for the East Coast of the US. And then here's the Euro. So the European computer model does show the system getting a little bit closer to the United States. So we'll back it all the way up. And you know what? Sorry, I lied. That's Lee. Hold on a second. This latest run, let me back it up to the 0Z run because it'll go farther out. Sorry about that. So here's Lee. That's Lee moving toward New England. So that one is showing it in just about the exact same spot as GFS did. So high winds for New England this weekend. Now we could look behind it. And again, lower right-hand portion of your screen, that's where we see the next storm coming in. By the way, the next name would be Nigel. So all of our long-term computer models are showing tropical wave by Africa, forming into tropical storm, and then eventually Hurricane Nigel. It may take a week, but next week it's going to be a story again for the East Coast. So that is what is happening with that. Now, as far as what's happening across the United States in our overall pattern change, what we're seeing here is we could look at this, which will, for the longest time, we had this heat dome on top of us, right? And so you had a big area of high pressure that was sitting directly over Texas. And, gosh, we hit 106 on Friday? 106 on Friday, which smashed the old record. But this week, we're looking for a different situation. So we're going to have just several disturbances, even one right here, which would represent a nice cold front. If you look here, let me zoom in on Texas here. This kind of yellow that you see dropping down like that is a trough in the jet stream. This is what's coming up for Sunday, Monday. So about 1 week from today. And this would tell us that a cold front is coming in. So that may drop temperatures a little bit, especially in the morning. And this time of the year, what ends up happening is the temperature doesn't drop a ton. What'll happen is that the dew point will drop. You'll get cooler in the morning, still kind of warm in the afternoon. So that's what I would expect for next week. We could also take a look at rainfall and the fact that this heat dome is gone now. We can go ahead and zoom through this. This is the European computer model and see how much total rainfall is expected. So this is taking us all the way through Wednesday, the 20th. So this is like 9 days worth of rainfall. And there's a legend here on the right. And where you see purple, that's 2.5, 3.5, 4.5 inches of rain. The dark purple is like 5 inches of rain. So North Texas is looking at, give or take, maybe 3, 4, 5 inches over the next 9 days. Now we are down here and we're only looking at maybe an inch and a half over the next 9 days. We can also switch, check out the GFS. Check out the GFS and see what it's showing us. Come on, computer. So here we go. So this is GFS here over the next, taking us over the next week and now 2 weeks. Okay. So this is the 2-week forecast. And I will tell you that this is not showing a ton of rain for us. It is showing some, which is important. Now, much of Texas needs rain. And in fact, a lot of the rivers that feed into our local lakes, like for example, we did a story last week about Lake Livingston and that the water is so low in Lake Livingston that they're actually, it's dangerous because they're finding like tornado debris from a tornado that hit a few years ago. So there's sharp pieces of metal and, aluminum roofs and just in Lake Livingston. So, picture this, like the lake starts to fill up and now these shards of metal are just inches under the water. I mean, it's very, very dangerous. Now it's completely dried out. And so some of the residents up there in the town of Onalaska are trying to get somebody, either the state or it's actually the Trinity River Authority, which is the entity that's in charge of it, to come in and clear this stuff out while they can, because it's not covered with water anymore, right? So they could remove it. If they don't, it's going to be a hazard. But either way, the reason I bring it up is that all of the lakes that we have in Texas, and some people know this, some people actually probably, I think a lot of people don't know this, that all of the lakes we have in Texas, or I would say every single one, but basically the vast majority of the lakes that we have in Texas are man-made, meaning that the lake is created by placing a dam on a river. So Lake Livingston is one of them. So you have the Trinity River that comes down from Dallas, and drains into, they put a dam in Livingston. And so that created Lake Livingston. And then they empty water from the dam and it comes down and it flows into, oh gosh, why is this escaping me? It flows down into Galveston Bay. You also have Lake Conroe and Lake Houston. So the San Jacinto River flows down and it's dammed in Conroe and you get a lake, and then it's dammed in Sheldon. And so you get Lake Houston. Bottom line is the water has to flow downstream. So when it rains in North Texas, that helps. And when it rains in Central Texas, North Central Texas, that helps to replenish our water supply into Lake Houston, Lake Livingston, Lake Conroe. So we need that too. Even if we don't directly get the rain here, it's still a help if the rain falls up into parts of North Texas. So that's what we're looking at. Some helpful rain on the way. No tropical threats for us at this point. You may be asking the question, and it's a good question, are we out of the woods? Is hurricane season over? Is this it? No, not so fast. We're only on September the 11th, which is actually the heart of hurricane season. And we've had some whopper storms that have hit in late September. I will tell you that none of the models are showing anything coming our way over the next 2 weeks. Once we make it into October, it becomes much less frequent for us to get hurricane landfalls. And in fact, the latest one on record over the last 100 years is October the 16th. And that happened back, I think, in the 1920s. So the storm didn't have a name. But so you have to go back 100 years ago. We had a hurricane hit on October the 16th. And really, that's it. Once we get into mid-October, it becomes extremely rare for us to receive hurricane landfalls in Texas. All that being said, we've had a lot of unprecedented things happen this year. So you never know what's lying ahead. So don't let your guard down. It's not over yet. We will, of course, continue to monitor things and let you know what's happening. You can head to our website at fox26houston.com/tropics. For the latest views of satellite views and so forth of what's happening out there. Overall, that about does it. For this week, expect lots of sunshine today, kind of hot weather, more humidity tomorrow, a few more clouds, hot weather, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, probably Saturday, some off and on rain, but it just doesn't look like any kind of drought busting rain for us. So that'll do it. So shout out to my mom and Neil, who are hopefully watching from South Florida today. And the Dolphins, by the way, had a big victory over the weekend too, all the way out in San Diego. So that was nice to see. So anyway, thank you so much for tuning in for Mondays with Mike, and we'll see you again soon.